And I move on to the next session, which is on stories, storytelling, and the role of animals. It's a powerful amalgamation of these media for impact and long term recall. And our moderator is Maho Uehara. And a little bit about Maho before I hand over the floor to her. Since joining the Humane League's Japan team in 2017, Maho has worked to engage with corporations and producers in Japan to implement cage-free policies. The concept of animal welfare and cage-free rearing are still not promulgated in Japan. So the Human League Japan has utilized any opportunities to educate and inform business communities and producers to raise awareness. Maho studied animal advocacy and policies at Humane Society University and has worked as an animal protection advocate for 2 decades. Welcome, Maho, and handing it over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. Very nice to meet you. It's really nice to see you all from all over the world. You're all from different time zone too. Thank you for joining. Despite it might be midnight after that. Okay, today, so the session 3 is, the title is storytelling, and we have 3 speakers who are professional storytellers. And let me introduce the first speaker, Lara Nakagawa. So Ulara is the founder of Elephants in Japan and global initiative to improve the welfare of elephants with the focus on captive elephants in Japan. Ulara is co-producer of host of the After Animal podcast and board member at the Center for Contemporary Science. Ulara, you're from Canada originally, and you are now based in Los Angeles. So now let's start Ulara's presentation.
How many of you have heard of Hanako the elephant? Well, Hanako was a 69-year-old elephant who I first came across while living in Japan. I was shocked and dismayed to discover that Hanako had been forced to spend over 60 years of her life totally alone in a tiny, barren, concrete enclosure at a Tokyo zoo. So I wrote a blog post about her plight and shared it on social media. Someone copied and pasted my blog post into an online petition, and it went viral, collecting hundreds of thousands of signatures very quickly. Hanako's story then captured the attention of the media. Next came a flood of international media coverage. Dozens of publications, including CNN, the New York Times, and the Associated Press wrote about her, some dubbing her the world's saddest elephant. Thanks to this global attention for Hanako, I was able to crowdfund some money and bring elephant welfare specialist and founder of Elephant Aid International, Carol Buckley, to Japan to meet with Hanako's zoo. At the end of our visit, the zoo agreed that they would implement changes Carol recommended to improve Hanako's life. It felt pretty good. Sadly, only months later, in May 2016, just as some of these positive changes towards her welfare were being executed, Hanako collapsed and died from heart failure. So, in Hanako's memory, the following year, we launched Elephants in Japan in memory of Hanako on World Elephant Day. Her legacy lives on through our advocacy for Japan's remaining captive elephants, with a strong emphasis on those being held in solitary confinement. Our goal is to do all that we can do so that the other Hanakos in Japan will not have to endure the long, sad, deprived life that she had to. Also in 2017, we teamed up with renowned elephant biologist Dr. Keith Lindsay. Dr. Lindsay traveled to Japan to conduct an on-the-ground survey of solitary elephants in Japan's zoos, and then wrote an extensive 115-page report on the situation. We released the report together with the launch of our new initiative. We felt so lucky when, again, the world's media took interest. The National Geographic gave us exclusive coverage for the launch. We landed a full front page feature in the print edition of the Sunday Times, as well as interviews with Dr. Lindsay and I for radio shows, podcasts, and more. We've also been thrilled to receive media coverage from some of Japan's top media outlets, national and regional. This headline and caption is from the Asahi newspaper and translates to "Solitary elephant keeping at zoos. Strict attention is being cast on the issue from overseas as it goes against their natural ecology. What is the response on the zoo side?" Here, the left image is from a national print newspaper, and the headline reads, "An opinion against keeping elephants alone in zoos. A Canadian biologist report says it's against their ecology and welfare." On the right is an article from a regional paper, and this headline reads, "Science students from Teikyo University conduct behavior observation with the aim of reducing stress in elephant." So now I'd love to share 3 key lessons I've learned through this experience to date. In particular, why I think, despite the odds and with little to no budget, we've managed to replicate some of the success we had with Hanako in terms of generating global awareness for other solitary elephants. This is especially when we consider that there are an estimated 15 to 20,000 captive elephants globally, most, if not all of them, also living in inhumane circumstances. So the first takeaway is to put a spotlight on one. In launching elephants in Japan, we were faced with a new major challenge. How do we encourage people to care about 14 elephants, not just one? So it was tough, but we first had to decide to narrow our focus. We narrowed down the list of the 14 solitary elephants in Japan covered in our report down to the top 5 worst cases based on Dr. Lindsay's observations and assessment. These were solitary elephants who were being dominated and highly controlled by their keepers, kept in enclosures with little room to exercise or move, with no stimulation and nothing to occupy their time. In most parts of Japan, sadly, during winter months, these elephants are forced to spend 24 hours indoors in tiny, featureless enclosures. We then took these 5 worst cases and split each into a mini campaign for each elephant. For us here at the Asia for Animals conference, it is so obvious all of these elephants are in need. Still, we knew it would be tough to get the general public to notice or care about 5 captive, nameless, faceless elephants, no matter how deprived their conditions. If we were to even come close to getting the same amount of attention for any of our solitary elephants in the way that Hanako did, we would have to give them each a name and personality and highlight their unique circumstances. Back when the famous conservationist Jane Goodall was first starting out in her career as a primatologist, she totally understood the importance of this, I think. It's why she went against scientific methods of the time and gave the chimpanzees she studied names instead of numbers. She felt, since chimpanzees have emotions, minds, and individual personalities, she wanted to give them names that reflected this versus something just like a clinical number. So we created petitions for each of our elephants with this in mind, along with videos and written collateral. To date, Elephants in Japan has managed to collect over 2.3 million petition signatures. My next lesson learned is stick to the facts. When you feel super passionate about a cause, sometimes you want to do anything you can to bring attention to it. It might be tempting to exaggerate or let stories take on a life of their own. However, I think actually stripped down, bare bones facts are still what actually appeal to people and the media. I'm lucky because I have a background in journalism. Elephants in Japan has really leaned on science and facts to communicate the plight of these elephants to others, such as by drawing from Dr. Lindsay's expert opinions to explain how the solitary elephants' head bobbing, swaying, and repetitive motions are in fact coping behaviors due to stress and deprivation. And I also just wanted to mention that not only has this approach helped us gain exposure and awareness for elephants in Japan, The unique combination of advocacy with a research-based approach has worked well in resonating with multiple targets in Japan, including academia, the zoo community, and other organizations. And it's really helped us cut through tough cultural barriers. We've been told that while other advocacy efforts have not succeeded in a country that is notorious for its lack of advocacy and activism in general, we've been taken more seriously by organizations like the Japan Association of Zoos and Aquariums and the media because of this credibility that we have managed to build so far. For instance, you'll see here in 2018, in response to our report, the Japan Association of Zoos and Aquariums, or JAZA, made an official statement acknowledging that elephants are highly social animals and that they would be promoting the transfer of solitary elephants to bring them into groups. Sticking to facts and drawing from science can also protect your organization and its efforts credibility-wise in the short and long run. The third and final lesson Elephants in Japan and Hanako have taught me about generating awareness for animals in need is talk to the front row. Be sure to share your campaign story with groups and communities that are already interested or invested in the topic, your front row, as I like to call it. Malcolm Gladwell focused on this fundamental marketing principle in his 2000 book, The Tipping Point, which examines ideas, products, messages, and behaviors that spread or go viral. I believe this can be applied to viral advocacy campaigns. So he says in his A Law of the Few that 20% of people are kind of like the super communicators, and they end up doing 80% of the work in making stuff go viral. So even if they don't have like a huge following on social media yet or influencer status, be sure to share the content with your front row audience. There's a real power in these types of truly invested niche audiences over time. For us, it's helped us continue to raise awareness for each new elephant. These loyal communicators we've gained along the way sign each new petition for us and help spread the word by sharing it to their niche networks. This approach can also help you build networks in the longer term that are incredibly valuable, especially if you don't have a ton of resources or like a big budget for social media. For Elephants in Japan, we've also built valuable strategic partnerships from this type of activity. So for the elephants and for all the animals, I thank you for being here and for your time today.
Thank you, Ulara. Thank you so much. So I'm going to hand over this session to the next presenter. What I will do is I show the presentation one by one, and then we come back and have discussion, Q&A. So if you have any questions, please send the questions in the chat box. So next presenter is Joanne McArthur. Jo. Joanne is an award-winning photojournalist, sought-after speaker, and the founder of We Animals Media. Joanne has been documenting the plight of animals on all 7 continents for almost 20 years. And Joanne wrote 3 books, We Animals, Captive, and recently, last year, Hidden Animals, and in the Anthropocene. I hope my pronunciation is okay. And yeah, and Joanne is based in Toronto in Canada and travels many months each year. I think now you can't, but to document and share the stories of animals worldwide. So please take it away.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me today at the AfA for Animals Conference talk on storytelling and effective storytelling. I'm going to jump right in here and start sharing my screen. And we're going to get into this. My name is Joanne McArthur. I'm an animal photojournalist. I've been doing animal photojournalism for almost 20 years now. So what is that? All right, well, let's get into it. I photograph the hidden animals, as I call them. They are animals that we have a very close relationship with, and yet we fail to see in our lives. And these are animals that a lot of us are advocating for. They are the animals we eat, the animals we wear, the animals who are used in entertainment and research and labor and religious practice. And as you know, we're quite used to seeing images of wildlife, companion animals, but these hidden animals largely go unseen. Their stories go unseen. And as we know, it's really important to get those stories out there so that we can see, change, feel galvanized. And so I've been to about over 60 countries now to tell the stories of these animals. I get up close and personal with them. As you can see here, this is a calf who is about 20 minutes old. She's still wet from birth and she's been taken away from her mom. Animal photojournalism is very political as opposed to other kinds of photography. It shows big picture like you see here. I try and show scale in the work, but it's also really important to show the individuals caught in the systems that we have created. These are pigs just arriving at slaughter. Getting up close and personal again. We often think of fish in schools. We don't think of them as individuals. And so it's really important in animal photojournalism to get up close and personal. And also showing how we interact with animals. My project, which is called We Animals, is not really about just those animals. It's about us animals. It's about we animals and how we see and interact with and fail to see other animals. This is Kiska. I'm really interested in storytelling. So we can take an image, but you can do so much more with an image when you do your research and tell the story behind it. It becomes much more poignant. As you know, it's really difficult to get people to look at images of animal suffering because we don't want to feel complicit. It's painful for us to see these images. And so we have to use tools to engage people. This story becomes a bit more interesting when you find out this orca's backstory. She was wild caught off the coast of Iceland in 1979, and she has since lived alone in this tank, which is ironically called Friendship Cove. It takes her about 1 minute to circumnavigate this tank, so you can imagine what a boring life she leads. This is a puppy in a puppy mill. When we see puppies, usually they're happy and it's, all the cute Instagram stories, but where are these animals so often coming from? So this is our job as photojournalists, to tell these stories. And luckily, not just the stories of heartache and cruelty, but the stories of change and progress and hope as well. Like this story, which is the man is Apollinaire. He's holding Picken and she has been rescued from the bushmeat trade. So that gives you a little bit of a sense. I'm going to go back here a second. Gives you a bit of a sense of what I do. But, it's one thing to tell stories, to capture stories, to make films. And it's quite another thing to get them out into the world, which is why I'm speaking with you today. I would say that the taking of the image, the making of a film is the start. It's not the end. And as creative people, we forget that sometimes because we're quite focused on the making of a film, a video, or a photo. So to our next slide, it's important to be a storyteller, not to a few, but to many. So otherwise, what's the point? I mean, we do this work to help animals. And what is the point if we're not getting them out into the world as far as we possibly can? And so I made a few notes here about making a plan to amplify your reach. And this is work that you can do ahead of your shoot. You can think about which NGOs and activists you want to work with and why. So rather than just doing it on your own and creating something on your own, which NGOs and activists do you want to work with? Which NGOs have a good media strategy? Do you have a good media strategy? This is all the stuff that I don't really want to do because I'm a creator. I just want to get out there and get the stories. But I realized in the service of animals, I had to create a strategy. So you can pair with media. You can create a launch for your story and have others commit to sharing it. You can submit the work to awards and competitions so that it gets bigger viewership. And pay attention to the needs of the animal advocacy world and produce stories that can help the movement with its work. So that's something I learned to do a few years back. What does the animal advocacy movement need? What are they focusing on? How can I help them focus on that? Are they focusing on chickens right now because they suffer in such high numbers? Are they focusing on the sea animals who die in the trillions every year? So how can I create stories that they can use? I would also say, set the bar high for yourself. Don't compare the work that you're doing to your fellow activists, but think about who's shooting for the New York Times and like the biggest newspapers in the world, and what does their work look like, and can you emulate it? What is the media asking for? Can you produce something high enough quality to be shared at that level? So push yourself. And how we do that, We Animals Media, we started a photo agency. So my project, We Animals, grew into a media agency. We have a lot of contributors. I encourage you, if you are a media maker, to contact us at weanimalsmedia.org if you want to work with us. We commission stories now. We have contributors globally. So this is in an effort to amplify our reach. And we also created an archive, which has over 10,000 photos and video. That's available for anyone for free in the animal advocacy movement. We provide them with visuals that will help their campaigning, their activism. And so that was also a big thing for my team and I at We Animals Media in terms of being strategic and giving longevity to the work that we do. We also create books. My most recent book is called Hidden Animals in the Anthropocene. And this is the work of 40 photographers. We cover all sorts of issues about how animals are used. I include this image because it's timely. These are pigs who are being buried alive. This is us humans trying to combat swine flu, which is just unbelievable and timely. And you're seeing the same thing here. Millions of birds were killed, buried live in order to combat avian flu. And this is the work of Kristo Murima in Finland. So what I'm showing you here is the work of 40 amazing photographers. We created a book because we wanted to create something lasting, historic, impactful, something that's newsworthy. And so here are some of the images, and I have to wrap up in a minute. So I'm just going to go through a couple more of these images. This is a chick, the last chick going into a macerator, who is being macerated because he is male and not useful to the egg-laying industry. So in short, I would love to hear from media makers out there. If you want to work with us, if you would like mentoring, we offer a masterclass. So it's the We Animals Masterclass, and it's 8 episodes self-guided on how you can be a better animal photojournalist. So that's at weanimalsmedia.org. I encourage everyone to use our archive, but also if you have images and videos that you would like to contribute to our archive, we would love to see that material. So you can reach us at these websites. And I hope that this presentation has inspired you to go out there and take good images and video and be very strategic in the work that you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. We'll come back to you. Wow, Ulara, Joanne, you energized me again. I know why I am here now. I was reminded, so powerful. So the third speaker for this session is Jian, and Jian is a Chinese award-winning filmmaker. He filmed China's meat consumption in 2009, founded the Good Food Fund in 2017, and is launching the China Vegan Society in March, which is the first one in China this year. And he's going to launch it this year. And Jian is a leading work stream 1 of Action Track 2 of the UN Food Systems Summit. He's Yale World Fellow and India China Fellow and an Asia 21 Young Leader. Jian is based in Beijing. So now I see him. So please take it away.
Hi everybody, my name is Jian. I'm based here in China. My professional background is in filmmaking, but I've been running this organization called the Good Food Fund for the last 5 years, and we are launching a new initiative called the China Vegan Society in about 2 months. I'd like to first show you a teaser of the documentary film that I'm making called Zodiac 12. If you knew me as a child and asked me what my favorite animal was, I would always tell you that rabbits, because I was born in the year of rabbit and feel like there was this natural connection between me and rabbits. People naturally feel they're close to these animals, and they identify with these animals. The characters of these animals, for example, rabbits, they tend to be very kind, very gentle animals. I wish I am. Because these zodiac signs are so important for the Chinese culture. But I would argue that very few people know how these animals actually live in the same world as we do, and how they are treated and how they were abused. So I felt that if I were to make a documentary film about animals now that I care so much about, why don't I tell the story from the point of view of the Chinese zodiac signs, to really scrutinize that relationship.
Everyone born and raised in China has an animal dearest to them, based on their year of birth. The 12 Chinese zodiac animals represent a 12-year cycle of life, and they have a tremendous impact on the way the Chinese understand their own personalities, decide their fortunes, make love matches, even in which year they prefer to bear their children. I remember even when I was a little boy, I refused to eat rabbits because I was born in the year of rabbit, and I somehow feel my life is especially connected to that of rabbits. So if I eat a rabbit, if I kill a rabbit, I feel that as if I were killing myself. This film will explore the relationship between human and non-human animals in contemporary China, broken down in their own stories by each of the Zodiac 12. Unlike any other film on similar topics that has been produced up to this day, this proposed film will be made by Chinese people telling stories from a Chinese perspective. We will build our stories based on Chinese history, culture, and realities. Given China's growing influence, we expect that a groundbreaking film will be remembered, quoted, referred to, and serve as an inspiration for many other works. and enable possible activism and public policy to emerge. And we hope the film will help the advance of an animal protection law in China.
I think that it's an increasingly important issue that we need to reconsider our attitudes to animals, and I hope that it will be possible to encourage more and more people to do so all over the world, and I hope that this film will play a role in doing that.
We want to change the way Chinese see their relationship with animals. We want to inspire change. And to do that, we must first start the conversation. Please support us in creating this first film of its kind in China.
The reason I felt that it's very important to find that cultural angle to tell the story of non-human animals is that we have to realize that not everybody has experienced the thing that we experienced and feel the same way as we feel towards ourselves or towards other living beings. So it's important to find an angle that is they find accessible and they find culturally relevant, and it's really important to contextualize the issues we're trying to promote. For example, how farm animals are treated in factory farms. This is a very important issue to touch on. Especially in China, we have a different social, political, and economic environment than many parts of the world, and we have to be very, very aware of that. So this year is the year of the cow, or cattle, or even buffalo, because they actually share the same word in Chinese. So it's, as we all know, cows or cattle is the icon of human agriculture for centuries. When you imagine agriculture, when you try to picture agriculture, there's always a cow or cattle there plowing in the field. And also it's a very interesting issue for the Chinese as well, because for centuries the Han Chinese, which accounts for the majority of the Chinese population, ate very little beef because cows or cattle were considered as part of the family, and they were very precious because they were very important helpers for the farmers. And traditionally, Chinese people ate very little cow milk because, according to Chinese medicine, cow milk is not for everybody to drink. It's not necessarily a good thing for everybody. It's not a universal food. So this is a very interesting issue to pursue when we talk about beef or milk in the Chinese culinary culture or in the Chinese culinary tradition, and where do they stand today because of the factory farming. So Chinese are eating more and more beef every year, and certainly more and more. And certainly the Chinese market is the fastest growing market for the dairy industry. Living in China and in 2020s, I feel is more important and urgent than ever to tell stories of non-human animals, to reconstruct the narratives around animals, and eventually to change the way we relate to ourselves, to nature, and to other earthlings. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Ulara, Joanne, and Jian. You've been already inspired me. Do you have, I think, any questions coming in? You have, there's a chat and you do section. If you have any questions, please send me now. Yeah, one question from actually Sarah B to all of you. What do you do when people at the place become confrontational where you're taking the pictures or images? This is the question from Sarah.
Start. Would you like me to start?
Yeah, please.
Well, I try to avoid that at all costs. When people are on the property and they're aware of me, I try and introduce myself and make friends. Let them know truthfully that I'm a photojournalist who's interested in showing where our food comes from, and telling them that people don't really often know where their food comes. They think it comes from a grocery store. They haven't seen what a farm looks like. So I try and do it that way. But the truth is that a lot of these industries are not open to someone like me with a camera, and so the work is more undercover or investigative in nature. Many of the investigations that I've conducted over the years have been at night. Unfortunately, I work with a security team, with an NGO and a security team, and we tend to go in at night and leave everything as it is, but go in with our little lights and document and leave quietly, so that no one is the wiser about our having visited there. Yeah, I don't like sneaking around. I would prefer not to, but that's the state of things right now for the animal industries and people like me with a camera. If people get confrontational, I would leave. If things got dangerous, there's no sense in putting yourself in a dangerous way. You need to be able to continue to do this work. Yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you, Joanne. We have about 5 minutes or so, I think, for the Q&A. But there's another question for, I think, all of you. These visuals deeply affect an individual. How has it impacted you as a person? I think this goes on to Joanne and Jian and also Ulara. You've actually encountered, seen sad animals. How does that has impacted you? Yeah. Anyone? Joanne, go ahead.
Oh, I wanted someone else to start because I talked already. Does anyone want to go before me?
Sure. Anyone?
Yeah, sure. What Joanne said just now was really a similar experience that I had for this, confrontational experiences. For us, capturing the relations between the animals and the humans who are around them is actually part of what we try to capture. So I would go into places where I can capture in a confrontational way. But you cannot really avoid that. So I guess it's something that similar to Joanne, I would walk away. I don't think it's worth damaging the relationships for our future work. And to the second question, it reminds me of the importance of that work, and that's what sustained me, right? That's why I'm not. I was not. I've been doing the Good Food Fund and filming. I was not like someone who's really interested in food before I got into this. I had no interest in food, and now I'm doing this all because of the animals. And So every time I was there, being with the animals and see their situations, whether it's a better situation or it's worse, it really reminds me why I'm here and why I need to do this continuously. Thank you. Over back to you, Joanne or Ulara.
Hi, yeah. So I would say that strangely, with going and seeing these elephants in such deprived conditions who are clearly suffering is hardly even enough to describe the mental and physical situation that that they're imprisoned in. And prior to that, I was a journalist. So I traveled to Sumatra, for instance, to document the devastation of the rainforest and how that was impacting animals such as the orangutan. And for some reason, I can't, like when I saw your images, Joanne, like the ones especially of the factory farms, that little chick on the conveyor belt about to, meet its fate, I just get this like gut-wrenching feeling. I feel the pain, I can actually feel it, and then I feel angry, so furious at the injustice and then the lack of agency. But however, when I'm shooting the animal or I'm trying to get an image to convey for a purpose, I can compartmentalize. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but there's just something about it. It's like, I need to get this job done. And so, that's just been my personal experience. I do know a fellow in Japan who's leading an animal advocacy organization. And he actually, when he was first starting out as an advocate, he visited over 200 zoos, sleeping in his car and documenting animal welfare abuses in these zoos. And I asked him, I said, how did you do it? Like, how did you do it and not psychologically lose your mind? And he said, for me, I realized that the animals had it so much worse than I did. So for me to feel that pain on their behalf was the least I could do for them. And that really resonated with me. So I guess most of our experiences are unique, but that's mine. And I thought his was quite interesting as well.
Oh, thank you so much. So interesting, because I myself work for animals and I've seen so many, sad scenes, and sometimes I don't know, I've switched. I could, put that off and then focus on my work. But today I felt like, oh my gosh, she's just still there. Well, thank you. I actually have questions for you. What do you pay attention the most when you deliver messages in different countries, addressing different cultures? Is there anything you are mindful about and pay attention to?
Sure. I think it's important to know your audience, and I think it's important. I think wherever your audience is, they're likely compassionate people. I think most people are kind and compassionate and want to be treated with respect and not be spoken down to. So I like my work and my messaging to be relatable. Sometimes that can feel difficult as animal advocates. But I always remember that I ate meat for most of my life, before changing my mind about that. And so I can really relate to that. Meet people where they're at. And I think it's important, and I really enjoy championing people wherever they are on their journey, because that's what would work for me. I'll pass it over. Who else wants to speak?
Oh, I think we both unmuted at the same time, Jian.
Yeah, Lara, please go ahead.
I don't have a lot. I mean, we've been just mainly focused, well, I suppose in North America with the petitions or globally, but then in terms of Japan, it's been challenging, like Maho, I remember you and I had a conversation when we first met about the challenges of Japan. And you said that there was Japan is notoriously behind in animal welfare, like any public awareness about it. But you had mentioned to me that there was one campaign that somehow managed to resonate with the people there, and it was the gas chambers, right? For the gassing of companion animals. And there's something, I don't remember about the messaging that worked, right, in Japan. Yeah. And so I remember us talking and being like, well, how do we replicate that? As I said in my approach, we've taken a very academic, sort of scientific approach, because I know Japan as a society appreciates that. But I don't know if you remember why the companion animal message was so strong there. Like, it was the first animal welfare campaign that actually took off, right? Where people weren't uncomfortable with it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what it was about it exactly. I think was someone chiming in about that? Maybe. Anyways, that's it. Go. I'll hand the mic to you, Jian.
Okay. My very quick response to this is that really to understand where people come from. As children, we all loved animals. And when we grew up, we learned not to love them and learn to be, put them out of our sight. And I was like that. Rabbit was probably the only exception that I felt close to. I feel like very distant to animals. Even today, I'm still trying to work on that part. I think it's important to understand where people come from, how culture has influenced them, and also differentiate between passion and compassion. Most people might not have passions for animals. Like today, I'm not a typical vegan. I don't have very crazy about animals, but do I want to see them suffering? No. That definitely, absolutely not. So that's where I come from. I don't want to see any animal suffer. That's like the bottom line. So I guess, most people have passion in their heart, even if they don't have passion for animals.
Yeah, okay, that's very interesting. I guess we can go one more quick question. Some last word to close this session. But yeah, what is the most challenge you see now with your work and advocacy work? Just quickly to wrap up.
Well, I can end on a hopeful note. So there are a lot of challenges in animal advocacy. It's an uphill battle for all of us because we're trying to change a dominant culture, carnist culture. But I think things are changing everywhere. I had nowhere to publish my work 10 years ago, and now animal photojournalism is being published everywhere. We're seeing a rise in vegan food everywhere. Food tech is an incredible place to invest right now, and the rise of animal law too. That was not a field until recently. And so while there are major challenges, we're seeing more and more people taking part in animal advocacy. We're seeing more and more, finally, the overlap of environmental efforts and climate change efforts. All of these tie in with animal use. So I'm quite hopeful that more and more people will take part and be entrepreneurs and be innovative and help make the world a kinder place for animals.
That's positive. Thank you.
Yeah, I can jump in. So our challenges are that in a worrying trend, many Japanese zoos show little recognition on the ongoing problems and are maintaining plans for shipping in elephants from Asia. So notwithstanding international legislation and concerns limiting wild elephant imports, Japanese zoos are finding loopholes that allow them to bring new elephants into captivity. In 2018, the Sapporo Maruyama Zoo imported 4 elephants from Myanmar, opening a new elephant house the following spring. The Fukuoka Zoo, once home to the now past Hana, has announced plans to import 4 elephants from Myanmar as well. So, and the Tennoji Zoo, once home to the solitary elephant Hiroko, has also expressed interest in acquiring new elephants. So we think fundamentally the lack of understanding between international elephant experts and the zoo community in Japan needs to be bridged. So, I mean, we're doing what we can to close the divide and to inform and empower Japanese citizens so that they can better advocate for positive changes. Because if we don't get more people on the ground there, you know, participating, then I think, you know, I mean, that's where the hope lies.
My last few words would be, we are seeing some really promising trends with good potentials in the food industry. So we really would like to make this happen. And also, as I said earlier, you know, it's very, very important to contextualize these issues for people so they don't, you know, they understand why this is important, why this is relevant. So I'm hopeful for the next 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all. This is going. The session is going to close very soon, but yeah, I learned so much today, and thank you, Lara and Joanne and Jian, to be here. Yeah, and I'm sure we meet again for animals.
Yes, I'm sure, Maho. Thank you so much. You were just an excellent moderator, and Joanne, your work, Ulara, it's amazing how visuals can impact an individual so deeply, and some heart-wrenching, really heart-wrenching visuals. And we're all aware that the work is extremely challenging, and there are miles to go, but yeah, wish you lots of strength and keep up the wonderful work that you do. And thank you once again, Maho, for being the moderator of this session. And thank you once again, Ulara, Joanne, and Yi, for the wonderful, wonderful inputs that you have given us. Deeply, deeply appreciate it.